put his arm around my waist and was doing like this, kissing in my ear. Gentlemen, ladies, thank you very much for your voice notes. Now, let's see whether you're ready for my answers.
What informed you on how to dress? How do you put on a suit and the jeans?
Jeans, I do not wear jeans anymore. My wife, she said, a king doesn't dress this way. You know, the top half, suit and tie, fantastic. Jeans, you got to put that away, and so I have done. So I wear now constantly the jodhpur, the trouser of kings. I don't just listen to my wife, I'm obedient to my wife because she's always right. Especially when she's wrong, she's right. Try and get your head around that. That's why I'm king.
Who's the one opponent that caught you by surprise? Maybe they were a lot better than you thought they were going to be, or they were a lot worse than you thought they were going to be.
Dan Shoma, I fought him in South Africa. If you watch this fight, this man clearly beats me, outboxes me, and they give me the decision. I think the first time I saw Dan Shoma, it was a press conference, and I'm standing up looking at Barry Hearn. So I've got my back to the door and I said, Barry, where is this guy? Because I haven't seen him. Okay, we didn't have social media back in those days. And he said, he's directly behind you, Chris. You know, being the suave mind that I have, I'm like probably 10 o'clock. Peripherally, I can't see him. And I can't make him see that I'm trying to look at him because it's a mind game. So I'm like, okay, so I go on the other side to 2 o'clock and then I go slightly to 3 and I see him and I said, Barry, this is going to be embarrassing. The guy looks like a pizza boy. You know, he's got a fat stomach. I probably didn't say that to him, but that was my perception. And that's how you get beat, by underestimating your opponent. Let me tell you what, this guy outboxed me like it was embarrassing. He's the one who actually took out the tooth that got dislodged by Johnny Melfa. The one next to it, he took that straight out. He hit and he moved. I overreached, he hit and he moved. And he outboxed me and they robbed him.
Between your mum and dad, who would you be afraid of the most?
My mother. Why? Why would I be afraid of my mother more so than my dad? So my dad, I would get the belt or the strap. Okay, so he would take his belt off, but he would have both my wrists together like this, and then he'd be taking his belt off. And once he got it off, he'd fold it and you'd get the strap. That wasn't violence, that was steering. I wouldn't get it if I didn't do something I shouldn't have done. The reason I was more afraid of my mother, when she beat me with a slipper which was made of foam. It was literally like beating me with this bit of paper here. All right, because I was like, really, Mum? Is that it? Okay, but I didn't say anything. This is the reason I was far more afraid of my mother. I would have preferred 100 beatings from my father than the way in which my mother beat me. And this may have been no more than 3-4 times in my childhood. All she said was 2 words, Jesus Christ. Nothing hurt me more than that, nothing. That was painful, man. Wow. Isn't that something? I did not want to hear those words because she was at the end of her tether, as I said. I'm cheered up. Boy.
Hello, Chris. I just want to say you're one of my favourite fighters ever. Nah, who'd win in a fight? A baboon? You? Or 10 crabs?
We are now only taking questions that actually enable the human form and race and society to move forward. So we're moving on. Bring it.
I just want to ask, did you ever actually lose control of your temper in a fight?
The first time I lost my temper was against a fighter called Johnny Melfa. I believe it was my 9th fight. He was one of those fighters who, he was always coming, but he never quite came. So I was always just slightly off actually scoring my shots. And in so doing with this style, he'd pick his opponents off. So at that time I had a splint on my tooth, the front right. It was the end of the 3rd round where he hit me with this shot that I didn't respect the shot. It dislodged the tooth. And that put me in a rage. because in my mind, I wasn't this good-looking guy anyway. It was a real trespass. Yeah, I was furious. So I went back to the corner. I was like, oh man. Okay, so the next round I came out and I stuck it on him and I chased him down and I hit him with a right hand. With this anger, which was then controlled, it knocked him out. I mean, how he found the strength to get up, and he stumbled to the ropes. How he got up from that, I don't know. I hit him with a sledgehammer. Dan Sherry, my first defense, in the 11th round, I think it was, he was kissing my ear. So, you throw a shot, he got behind me, put his arm around my waist, and was doing like this, kissing in my ear. Which the normal reaction, because this is someone who's then cheating, he's looking for the reaction. The reaction is, get off. When you do like that, that's using your head. Now, if it was the front of my head, the referee would say, get out. You're disqualified. Because it was the back of my head, what do I do? What do I do? He doesn't know. So Dan Sherry then goes down and now he's stumbling, he's getting up and then falling back over, trying to win the fight on me doing an illegal move. Now, I'm furious. If you can lip read, you'll see that I'm probably cursing the worst of words at this opponent. And at one point you can look and you can see where I'm calculating like, he's got me. If I get disqualified, I deserve to be disqualified. You cannot use your head, back or front. I nearly lost my first World Championship defense against Dan Sherry because I lost my temper. But come on, give a man a chance. What would you do in that case? Oh, I've got... If you're a geezer, which I am a geezer, you have no choice but get off.
Could you do a message to my brother Asif Shah, and tell him that he better watch out dreadlocks? Direct it towards him, please. It'd be absolutely amazing. Thank you.
Asif Shah, remember say me tell you, watch where you do dreadlocks. Because when I run a joke, you have to walk straight dreadlocks. You see, if you walk straight, walk straight. You see, if you trip straight. Everything you do, make sure you're straight. Rastafari. All right.
It was great to hear the insight you gave us when you said you wrote a 3-page essay prior to David Haye fighting Nicolas Valuev. If you had to write an essay for Daniel Dubois, in a few sentences, what would the essay entail for Dubois to win this fight and become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world?
Unfortunately, I don't watch him. I've heard him use the F word twice. I'm not interested in how well a man fights. I'm interested in his character.
You've had a fantastic boxing career. Many people look up to you as their idol, but who do you consider as your idol?
In truth, it's Bob Marley. In the spiritual world, imagine he is the prophet for Africans. He's always been a steering influence in my life. Now, obviously, Jack Johnson, you come into him, it's like, wow. You have to study Jack Johnson to understand what a soul rebel he was. Okay, so Bob Marley, Jack Johnson, Joe Louis, Sugar Ray Robinson, Mike Tyson. Not for his language. I love Mike. Mike, I love you. You know I love you. And I know you to be... Now, let's see. Now, this is going to be quite shocking to some people. I know my intelligence. And I know that Mike Tyson is probably one of the most intelligent men I've ever met. He's aware of measure, where some people have no understanding of measure. So when you hear of Sugar Ray Robinson, 200 fights, and when you look at his career, if you look at his skill in dancing, in singing, in playing instruments, Floyd says he's the best ever. You know what? I understand. For this or the generation that you're speaking of was your time, not of all time. Effectively, you really had to just box. He had to deal with so many other issues which were based on racism.
Do you really think a Smartie is a stupendous confectionery? And if so, how did you come to this conclusion?
I came to the conclusion because of treats. It's based on the best confectionery that I've ever come across, which are no more, which were called treats. A roasted peanut with a hard, dark shell, chocolate shell, and they were truly stupendous. When I say I lived on these sweeties. Trust me, I mean it. I did. I was alive in this time. I actually met Nelson Mandela. I was alive. I had these treats. Look how wonderful life is. I met Prince.
A young male member of my family has been into his boxing recently. He's been watching clips, and a clip came of you on in your traditional English style, and he asked me, because it's on his boxing feed, that who obviously who you were, and I said, let's put it this way, kidder, that man in his prime could batter absolutely anyone in his weight class without a shadow of a doubt. It wasn't up for negotiation. He said, and I don't like swearing, but he said, bullshit. So which I then proceeded to show him the highlight reel of Mr. Christopher Eubank Sr. And at the end, he said that if he should ever have the pleasure of meeting you, he would apologise. What is the thoughts?
You say he could actually batter anyone in his weight class. That's not true. James Toney was around. Roy Jones Jr. was around. Mike McCallum. These were not fights you could win. These were trained killers. So then that goes to show you the wisdom in what they say. Do not judge a book by its cover. Don't judge. You have two pieces of metal. They look exactly the same. Only one is magnetized and one isn't. So one is literally dead and the other draws things to it. Okay.
What would your advice be to someone who's finally having their amateur debut sort of at the age of 26, so to speak?
Enjoy the discipline. Enjoy the craziness of boxing. Why do I say it like that? Because normal people can't do it. You've got to be crazy to get involved in this. And that's how you live. That's how you experience life. Oh, wow, what a rush. Oh, that hurt, but wow. That was like getting out of a warm bath and jumping straight into an ice bath. Wow.
Would you have entertained doing a mixed martial arts bout during your active prime if MMA was a prominent thing during that time?
No, crossing over, boxing, and I wasn't so much interested in the kicking and, the elbows and the strikes, because it was uncouth. Boxing could be dignified. And I was always trying to actually make it dignified, to have that style it was weary of the way it moved. In my mind, I had grace. I tried to amalgamate all of those virtues with what looks like violence and is violence. I did a beautiful job of it because I keep on hearing this come back to me.
What is your greatest achievement in boxing?
My greatest achievement is remaining the gentleman. I'm not a con man. I'm not a ruffian. I'm not a bully. I'm not a show-off. I'm a showman. I have patience. I am kind. I don't envy. I'm not boastful. You'll not hear bad language coming out. That's my greatest achievement. By how I have given respect to the noble art.
What would you aspire to see for boxing in the future? Would you see it as a more big three type of sport, as we call it in the States, big three, like basketball, baseball, and football?
It cannot be in the top three. So, you say baseball, basketball, and, American football. As great as those games are, I do not know of anyone like Jack Johnson. I mean, you have Babe Ruth. I remember that name in American sport as being legendary. Did he ever try to become something? And I'm sorry I can't choose or think of other individuals outside of boxing. This is the vocation, the sport that makes kings of men. Okay, so we know this through Jack Johnson. No sportsman in history can compare to him for what he had to endure in those days, early 1900s. Joe Louis, what he had to endure. And at the end of his career, they had him actually opening doors for customers at these casinos. He gave £1 million to the war effort. Now, look this up. Then the tax man, the government, charged him tax on that 1 million, of which he couldn't pay. Muhammad Ali, what sportsman in any other sport can compare? It's not possible.
My friend Ray Lord is interested in starting boxing, but his chief concern is the potential CTE, brain damage that you could possibly get. Are there any types of styles that you think that he could train towards to avoid that?
You know, the moves to evade, to block, to circle the ring, to use your feet to get out of trouble, all of those prerequisites of which you have to learn anyway, none of them things will help you if you are not right in the mind. It only takes one punch. What looks like an accident, there aren't any accidents. What I try to point out to people, rather than learn the craft as well as you can, learn to be credible. What is that? No one's watching, and I could get away with actually taking that. No one would ever see it, and no one would ever know it. It's at that point you do the right thing. That's integrity. This is how you become a great boxer. Style isn't going to save you from CTE. It's not going to save you. What will save you is always being truthful. You run in the morning, you train in the afternoon. You don't cut corners. You don't cheat. You don't lie. You don't envy people. You don't show everyone everything that you're doing. Meaning that you don't actually put your life on social media. Look at what I did. This is what I'm doing. Build yourself in silence.